What's up guys, my name is Tyler Brown of Bent Pencil Design Tutorials, and today I'm going to teach you how to design something that's near and dear to our heart. I'm going to teach you how to design our logo from scratch. We're not going to use any references. The logo is going to be all paths, solid strokes, no actual object fills or anything. It's going to be fully editable. You can make it as thick or as thin as you want, and let's just jump right into it. I'm going to create a new document. I like to work on 11 by 17 because I'm a print designer mostly. Because I do print, I design in CMYK and use 300 ppi for my raster effects because it's just the cleanest when you print it. So that's what I'm going to do. Alright, so here we have our artboard. First thing that we should change is to go to our Illustrator preferences by going to Illustrator CC and then down to preferences and then over to guides and grid. So the first thing I want to explain to you all is my grid that I use. I use a grid line every 1 inch with 16 subdivisions. That means that because my page is 11 by 17, my grid will be splitting the page up into equal increments, and each 1 inch grid line will have 16 subdivisions, basically 16ths of an inch. So let's just do that, and then we can just come to view. First we're going to turn on our snap to grid, and then we're going to come and show the grid as well. So here we go. As you can see, this is what I was explaining. This is the upper left portion of my artboard. If you go to view, rulers, show rulers, your rulers will pop up at the top. So right here is 1 inch, and here's also another inch. And then this 1 inch square is divided up into 16 by 16. So that's what we're going to use to actually make our paths as perfect as we can and keep them nice and clean. So this artboard kind of holds us back, so let's just hide the artboard. You can go down to view, hide artboards, or do Command Shift H. On PC, anytime I say command, it'll be control. So now that our artboard is hidden, we have all of this space to work in. Of course, our rulers are still based on that initial artboard that we used, so we're just gonna keep using them. First things first, I'm gonna start by creating the tip of this pencil. So we already turned our snap to grid on, so everything we do will snap to the grid points. So I'm gonna make a 1 inch by 1 inch circle by switching to the Ellipse Tool and then clicking and holding Shift to make a nice perfect circle. Then I'm going to switch over to the Scissors tool, snip the nodes here at the left side and the right side, and that'll separate this into two different objects. We're just going to delete the top half of it because we don't need it. On this one, we're just going to take this fill and hit this little X and this little red slash right here, so that it just removes the fill and keeps the stroke in the background. So let's turn up the weight of the stroke. I like to change it to increments of 9 because 9 is actually 1/8 of an inch on my artboard. So I'm just going to go with 27. That seems nice and like a nice weight. So let's select this again, and then holding Alt and Shift, just drag it over, and it duplicates it as well as moving it at the same time. And then you can just go to Object, Transform, Transform again, which is Command D on your keyboard. So I'm just going to hit Command D to duplicate it. Right, so we've got those points done. Now let's extend the pencil upward since we're making the actual barrel of the pencil right now. So this is the length of the barrel. We're not actually setting the length yet. We can tweak that later. So let's duplicate this line again by clicking on it, holding, and then hold, if it'll let me grab it, hold Alt and then Shift, and you can drag it straight across. And then just to repeat that, just Command D and Command D again. There we go, we've duplicated it. So now we're going to figure out where we are going to set the angle of our pencil on the circle to where we're going to have the tip. So I like to set it probably about 2 inches down from the actual shaft of the pencil, and then I'm going to set the center line as well so it's nice and perfect. But what we're going to make right here is we're actually going to make our own custom guide that will show us where we should be setting our point. So Command Y switches you to outlines. It just makes it easier to see sometimes, but it's not important right now. We'll be utilizing it more in a little bit. So we've got our path right here. We're just going to be using it as a guide, so we don't need to have an actual stroke on it. So let's just switch over here, take away the stroke, and then come over to here where the reflect tool is. You might have the actual rotate tool there. If you just click and hold on the icon, it'll allow you to choose which one. So I'm going to use the rotate. First thing I'm going to do is click on this point once, and then I'm going to click on it again, hold Alt on my keyboard, and click on it one more time, and it'll bring up this dialog to use. So I'm trying to set the angle where the pencil will meet the circle. -45 is a little too shallow. The pencil would probably be right here in the middle, which is way too short for the tip of a pencil. And if I were to choose half of that, 22.5, seems like it'd be a little shallow and the pencil would have to come down way farther, and that the tip of the pencil would be way too long. So let's take half of 22.5, which is 11.25, and add it to this. So then it's 33.75 degrees. So that's the middle ground between 45 and 22.5. And I'm comfortable with that. That's the one that I've tried and chosen, and it just works for me. So I'm going to click OK, accept it, and then I'm just going to switch back to my selection tool, select this one again, go over to the rotate tool, click and hold on it, and then go to reflect tool, which is O on the keyboard, and then I'm going to set my center point on the center line. Then I'm going to hold Alt and Shift, and I'm just going to click and drag it over to the other side. So then now we have two paths right here. So let's just select them both, and then I'm going to right click on it and go down to Make Guides. So now we have guides set. I'm going to now use Command Y to switch over to outline mode so I can see it a little bit clearer. We don't have thick strokes in our way and whatnot. And then I'm just going to come down to View, Snap to Grid, because we want to be able to meet this intersection right here as well as possible. And with the Snap to Grid, we're not capable of doing that. So right now you can see it says intersect right next to my cursor. So I'm just going to click from there, and I'm going to drag it all the way down here to the center point that I set. Right there. Alright, and then I'm going to switch back to the selection tool, select it, switch back to the reflect tool, set it on the center guide, and then hold Alt and Shift to reflect it across the center again. Now Command Y turns off your outlines. And as you can see, we don't have any strokes on these two paths right now. So let's just switch over to the Eyedropper tool, which is I on the keyboard. And then we will just click on one of these paths that have a stroke on it, and there you go, you get your stroke. Now as you can see here, the point isn't made because the paths are not joined. So if you switch over to your direct selection tool, and just select that end point right there, and then just go to Command J. Oh, that's not right. Let's see. If you go to Object, Path, Average, by choosing Average, the points will align to a perfect spot. They'll align both horizontally and vertically if you choose both, which is what I'm going to do. So now they should be on the same exact spot and not overlapping. And just hit Command J, and there you go. Now we have a nice sharp point. Let's turn on our snap to grid. Let's turn that back on. Alright, now we're going to switch back to the Ellipse tool, and from that same center point that we just set with the tip of the pencil, I'm going to hold Alt and Shift and click and drag the circle out. By clicking in the center and holding Alt and Shift, you can actually drag the circle out from its center point, rather than if you were just clicking and dragging, it would start where you were and just go from there. If you hold Alt and Shift, it does it from the center point. So what we're going to do again, like we were doing earlier with the scissors and the outlines, lining these up right here, we are going to switch over to outline mode. Use the scissors tool again. I'm going to cut it right here at the very top point, and then I'm going to come over here, turn off my snap to grid again so that we can find this intersection, and there you go. Now we have, if you hold Command, you should be able to switch over to your selection tool, select this outside circle, and just delete it, because we don't need it anymore. So let's switch over back to the preview mode instead of outlines by hitting Command Y. Select this one again. Use your reflect tool on this very end anchor point, and then hold Alt and Shift to reflect it across again. Like I said earlier with joining the points, just use your direct selection tool, select them both, just hit Command J. Alright, so we have the most part of a pencil done already. Now we need to make the band and the eraser. So I'm going to turn the grid back on, the snap to grid, and I am going to use my ellipse tool to make the actual band of the eraser. So right now I'm doing it 1 by 3 inches, but I've found that having it 1 inch tall makes the perspective a little bit weird. So I'm going to drop that down to 0.75. Click and drag that end point all the way up. You can do that by using your direct selection tool, selecting a box around the point. So it's not selecting this point. As you can see, this one's white, meaning it's not selected, and this one's filled, which meaning it is. So let's just click and drag this up and meet it right in the center of this circle. So now we have a nice connected, it looks like a nice solid pencil. So this is the band that we're going to be using. Just duplicate that circle by holding Alt and Shift and dragging it up, and then we're going to do it one more time. So these two pieces are going to make the band, and these two pieces are going to make the eraser itself. Let's see. There we go. And move this up some more. Now we're going to use our line segment tool again, like we were using earlier, to make the actual body of the pencil. And we're going to drag it from the center of the top circle to the center of the bottom circle. Do it on both sides. Now, select this bottom circle, go back to our scissors, and just cut the left and right end points. That'll leave you with the bottom half. Select the top half and delete it. Do the same thing with the second one. And I'm just going to leave the third one as it is because it's supposed to be the top perspective of the eraser, and if we were to trim it, it would just look really weird. So there you go. You've designed your first pencil in Adobe Illustrator. Well, it might not be your first, but this is how I use simple shapes and geometry and just the basic tools to create an actual complex logo design. In the next video, we're going to actually take this pencil and bend it into our B bent pencil logo. So stay tuned. I hope you learned something new. If you didn't learn anything new, or if something was confusing to you, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear back from you guys. Any critique is welcome. This was our first design tutorial, and I don't expect it to go off without a hitch. If there's something wrong, please let us know. I really appreciate that you took the time to watch this video. It's probably about 15 minutes long by this point. Just thank you very much. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/bentpenciltutorials, bent pencil design tutorials, sorry. And stay tuned because our next video should be out pretty soon. Thanks again, guys. Bye.